So we all got out, and first thing we had to strip all our clothes off. We were soaking wet and get changed at 45 below zero into some really cold clothes. Anybody ever been naked at 45 below?
From NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing, this is the Howl Podcast. I'm Ethan Shanty. As I'm recording this episode, it's 83 degrees in Potsdam with 68% humidity. And to be honest, I could not be happier about it. But every time I walk outside, someone is complaining to me about how muggy and sticky it is. And all I can think is, brother, we just had the most bitter and brutal winter that we've had in years. What is the problem? Personally, I'm loving the heat, and I can't wait to finish this episode so I can go swimming. But the weirdest thing has been happening. All these people talking about how they wish it was colder has gotten me thinking about the coldest I've ever been in my life. And for me, I'm sure it's the same as it is for a lot of other folks in the North Country. It was the ice storm of 1998. I was 9 years old when the entire North Country shut down. And though I know it was a really, really tough time for a lot of the adults up here, it was an unexpected winter vacation for me. It was like a time to bond with my family. Even then we had super busy schedules and it felt like we were seldom in the same room together except for dinner. The ice storm also inspired my first ever short story about a werewolf that was trapped in our basement. It was a pretty magical time in my life. Our little log cabin lost electricity longer than anyone else in Raymondville, but we had a wood stove to keep us warm. And we also raised and slaughtered our own animals. We canned our own vegetables, so we were well stocked. It was kind of a bummer at first that I couldn't watch TV, but after 3 days, I didn't really miss it. And then after the first week, I didn't really care if we ever got power back again. Honestly, I had everything I wanted all in one place and all of the games of Uno that I could stand. That year, we celebrated my mom's 49th birthday during the storm, too. My dad's specialty for birthdays was always the same thing, a salad dressing cake, usually chocolate. His preference was Miracle Whip rather than mayonnaise. I know that can sound a little unappetizing, but I still think about it every time my birthday rolls around. After he baked the cake, he set it on the side porch to cool off, and while I was rummaging through our junk drawer to find candles and a lighter, I heard my dad shout, "Oh, you little bastard!" My uncle and his dog Wilbur were staying with us too, and somehow Wilbur had gotten out and he had eaten almost the entire cake by himself. So needless to say, I remember all of those things, that storm. I remember it fondly. Now that I'm older, though, it's been almost 30 years since that storm, I find myself thinking more and more and more about the cold and how much more difficult it would be now that I'm an adult. I don't have a wood stove at my house. I don't even know anyone that has a wood stove. I've got enough food in my freezer and my pantry to maybe last me a couple of days. Maybe. But all in all, I think if the ice storm hit right now, I'd be royally screwed. But that is a problem for future Ethan. For now, I'm going to let you cool down with a story from Ron Tavernier. He told us a story on the Howl Grand Slam stage about the coldest he's ever been in his life. It's a cautionary tale about why you should always be prepared, especially if you're going winter camping in Alaska.
I grew up in Malone, outdoor family. I'd woken up in the spring, frost on the ground, in the teens. Once during the fall, I woke up to the tent collapsing under wet snow. But I'm talking about going out in the wilderness in the dead of winter, setting up a tent and spending a few days. Year was 1994. I moved to Alaska. Go Nanooks. I got an associate's degree at Paul Smith College. It's all they had at the time. But University of Alaska would take you for free to finish up your bachelor's if you had a 3.5 or above. So I went to Alaska, and that first semester I was living in the residence halls. Thanksgiving rolls around. I couldn't afford to fly home, so there ended up being a handful of us hanging out in the residence halls for all of Thanksgiving break. 3 of us decided we'd never been to Denali. Be a good time to go down, go to Denali, set up a tent, camp for a couple days. We planned ahead. We had like 4 days before the following weekend to get ready. I got a nice emergency blanket. I had a 20 below bag, a winter tent. We made some nice drag behind sleds because we were going to ski in 8 or 10 miles into the park before we set up the tents. You got to put PVC pipes so when you're going downhill, it's hooked to your side. Sled doesn't roll you over. Friday morning, we got up, we drove down to the park, timed it perfect. Got there about 10:30 in the morning when it was just starting to get light in the sky. The week leading up to it, it'd been like a heat wave in Alaska, 20 degrees during the day, maybe down to single digits at night. it was before cell phones, like he was talking about, so we didn't have instant weather. We had checked the weather. It was supposed to stay in the 20s. We got to the park. We parked. We were the only car in the parking lot, loaded our sleds up, and we started skiing into the park. We were skiing the road, but they don't plow the road in the winter. They do run dog sleds, so we had a packed area to go on. We went in about 8 miles, found a stream off to the left, and started skiing down the stream a couple miles to set up the tents. And as we were doing this, the sky started to clear off. So we got down in the valley, we're setting up the tents, we found a nice banked windbreak, had shovels dug out, got my tent all set up, and meanwhile, it cleared completely off. Now, I have knowledge, I grew up in Malone, I'd left Malone and know the weather can be really different in the mountains. You know, leave Malone at 50 degrees, hit snow in Lake Placid. And yeah, there's a big difference between having knowledge and putting that knowledge to use. You can guess which one I'm good at. So as it's clearing off, the temperature plummeted. I had one of those little cheap thermometers from REI. It went down to 20 below. It went below that. Thing broke. It never worked right again. I found out the next day, 15 miles down the road in Healy, it hit 42 below zero. We were in the park in the mountains, so I don't know, 45, 50 below zero. And as we get the tent set up, and it gets dark, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there we are, 12 miles back in the wilderness. We bought some of those bundles of wood from 7-Eleven, and we started a fire. And it should have been a beautiful, like one of those nights that stuck out in my mind. The skies cleared off, the northern lights came out, and right there in interior Alaska, you're under the coronal band. So it was northern lights, southern lights, the sky full of ribbons. About an hour in, the Riley Creek Wolf Pack found us. And I think they were surrounding the campsite hoping we'd freeze to death. They'd have something to eat. But they serenaded us for the rest of the night. But it was miserable. At those temperatures, you can't stay warm. We had the fire blazing. By the way, 4 bundles of wood lasted about 2 hours. The 3 of us were walking around the fire. And we'd make about 10 laps till this side facing away from the fire got cold, and somebody'd yell switch, and we'd turn around and go back the other way around. And, you know, we made hot chocolate on the stove. My friend had bought a bottle of Kahlua with him to go in it. He pulled it out of his backpack. It was frozen solid. And so about 6 o'clock at night, it's pitch black, and we run out of firewood. We did the only thing we could do. We went to bed and crawled into our sleeping bags. Before we did, we melted a bunch of snow. You get boiling water. You empty it into a water bottle and throw that in your sleeping bag so you can curl in fetal position around it. And I had long johns on. I had sweatpants. I froze. I did not sleep. By about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, my feet are numb. I'm starting to lose feeling in my hands. The chattering's going on. I knew I had to get up and stop moving. That's when I realized, in those temperatures, you really need to sleep with your boots inside your sleeping bag. They were frozen solid, and so me trying to get those boots on my frozen feet was painful. And I woke the other guys up while doing it and finally got them on. I mean, my fingers were numb. And we congregated outside the tents. We knew we had to get the hell out of there. We packed up all our stuff in the sleds, and we took off with the skis to ski out. Took about 2 miles before the pain started coming back in my feet. At about 4 miles, I'm finally warm again. And about 5 miles, I started to sweat. And I should have stopped, stripped a layer, did some venting, but we just wanted to get the hell out of there. And so 10 miles back to the car. We got back to the car. We're all soaking wet from the inside. And my car was an 85 Buick Skylark with over 250,000 miles on it. When I left Malone, my dad said, call me from the border if it makes it that far. And so I got in behind the wheel. I totally went to turn it. And it did nothing. So we all got out, and first thing we had to strip all our clothes off. We were soaking wet and get changed at 45 below zero into some really cold clothes. Anybody ever been naked at 45 below? It's an experience. And so we walked out to the road hoping somebody would be going by while we talked about what we were going to do. If you hate people, winter is the best time to visit Denali National Park. The whole entrance area is closed down. The nearest business is about 12 miles away in Healy. It's the log cabin, restaurant, gas station, grocery store, laundromat, and showers. And so we had a choice, walk 12 miles, but we came up with a better plan. We went back to the Skylark, slid 2 stoves under it, lit them up, got it going, spread blankets and everything over the hood of the car, and we started cooking the Skylark. We took turns. 2 of us would go out to the road and walk down the road to try to stay warm and hopefully flag somebody down. Well, 2 people stayed by the car, so if there was any fluid leak and it went up in flames, we could at least all enjoy the heat. And after about an hour, we got a little bit on. After 2 hours of cooking, we finally got the Skylark started. We all piled in, took off down the road. It was about 8 or 10 miles later, I realized it wasn't blowing any heat. I don't know if you guys know about thermostats, but the car was old and the thermostat would stick, which wasn't a big deal. It wouldn't blow heat in. I had a hammer, I'd get out and bang on it. But at that point, my hands were numb. None of us could hold a hammer. And I'm just wondering how I'm gonna get the heat going. And I looked up and there it was, the Healy log cabin restaurant, laundromat. And I didn't even slow down. I pulled into the parking lot at 45, we went airborne, hit. The second we came down, I got a good 10, 12 feet off the car. The heat came on, blowing into the face. We skidded into a stop space, went in and ordered food on our frozen. And as I was sitting there, the pain coming in and back into my hands, I drank the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. And I swore I would never go winter camping again.
That's it for this episode of the Howl Podcast. I'm Ethan Shanty. Thanks so much for tuning in. Next week, we'll head to Cuba with Ken Youngblood.
And I look over in the dresser, and there's this Lazy Susan, and in a perfectly formed Christmas tree, it was loaded with condoms.
The Howl Podcast is a co-production of NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing in Saranac Lake. I'm Ethan Shanty. I host, produce, and edit the program. Emily Russell was my script supervisor on this episode. Bill Hanel is our Director of Digital Services, and Anna Williams-Bergen is our Digital Projects Specialist. Our theme music is by Famous Letter Writer of Plattsburgh. To hear more episodes and to find out when we're going to be telling live stories in your town, visit ncpr.org/howl. And if you want to be on this show, you can send me a pitch to ethan@ncpr.org. Looking forward to seeing you next week. For NCPR, I'm Ethan Shanty. This is the Howl Podcast.